and use our code HAD IT. That's go.pacaapparel.
Like, and I'm so afraid of, since I was in my 20s, like marriages didn't work out. So I did the research for guys getting married in their 50s. The divorce rate is very low.
I would think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I would
first time guys getting married for their first time in their 50s.
I think so. I think we're much better people by the time we're in our 50s. And so that makes sense.
Much more. I told people keep saying, "Oh, you waited for the right one," and I go, "No." I said I waited until I became the right one, because I wouldn't have wanted to date myself in my 30s.
All right, Senator Booker, what have you had it with?
I've had it with being single. 100%. Being single is not fun, especially when you're trying to date. And as a United States senator, it's been a difficult, challenging time. So I've had it with that, and I'm very psyched that I'm.
All right, I'm gonna try to get through this a little bit. We all know why we're here. Please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, and let's get to it.
Getting married.
When's the wedding?
We're going to do it before the end of the year. Quick. We don't want to wait long, and we both want to get married quick, and we're both hoping to have kids at sometime soon. So.
We're not giving you a centimeter. And I think there's been a lot of capitulation. I think there's been a lot of Neville Chamberlain type appeasement from Democratic leadership. And you're one of them that's kind of been disappointing to me, because we podcasted before. They're serious about Project 2025. They're going to do all this shit. And they're doing every single bit of it. So what do you think? What do you have to say about the capitulation that you've participated in, and where the Democratic Party is right now?
Well, first of all, I would say very pointedly that one of the things I dislike about the Democratic Party is that we do a circular firing squad all the time. Their party, they disagree. There's a wild disagreements in the Republican tent, and yet they don't shoot at each other. And we have a really good way of holding up these purity tests that if I agree with you on 95...
That's such bullshit. That is such bullshit. They fire at each other all the time. Trump has sent so many people out to pasture, so many people that he calls rhinos. Liz Cheney can tell you that they have the firing squad as well. It's not a purity test. It's are we in this fight, and are we being beholden to corporations and corporate interests, or were we really the party of the working class? And that's what I think.
Okay, I'll be honest. I have not ever heard of this podcast before. I've seen pictures of this lady going around. I don't know her name, so forgive me, but I've seen this kind of circulating. I'm like, oh, let me check it out and react to it. But they have a following for sure. I'm always shocked to see some of these podcasts and these YouTube channels that just get overnight success, but that's neither here nor there. This may seem rude, obviously, and this may come across as very straight. I like this personally because we should be holding our politicians accountable. We should not just roll over and take it, and they have to be accountable to someone. And right now they're just they're not being held accountable is what I'm trying to say. And this, hey, we're not going to just give you these softball questions and you're going to give me these softball answers. No, we really are here for some accountability. So it's good. I mean, when you do that type of job, you could expect nothing less. So, yeah. Let's see how he gives us word salad out of this one.
Two things I'll say. First of all, if everybody in your coalition agrees with you on everything, your coalition's not big enough. If we don't have disagreements, if we don't have disagreements, then we're talking in an echo chamber. Thank God I sit in a caucus with people. I couldn't win in some of my colleague states, perhaps, but we have lots of different agreements, but we are united in the fight against Trump. And I'll say number two, which is really important, is that, we feel the existential urgency. And even though we don't agree on everything, I'm in the trenches with some of the best fighters I have, from veterans like Mark Kelly and Tammy Duckworth, who have, I know Mark's voted on some people I didn't vote for. So we may not be absolutist, but the fighters that I'm in the trench with right now, the sacrifices that they're making for this fight is pretty tremendous. So I have disagreements with a lot of people. Look, I'm one of a handful of people that don't take corporate PAC money. I don't understand my Democratic
What
Party.
about APAC money? You take APAC money, don't you?
A minuscule percentage of my resources come from
I read it's like 800,000.
Oh, yeah, but that's a lifetime number of raising tens of millions of dollars. Let me give you the right stat. The majority of my money comes from small dollar contributions. My last report, I think 76% of it came from people.
I don't care what nobody says. $800,000 is no. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. All right. Let me just let him make his case before I jump in here.
Gave $25 or less. So this to me is about, again, we could pick at each other, or we could do what we need to be doing right now, is joining in a chorus of conviction to condemn it. And again, I'm a child of civil rights activists. You think Malcolm X and Martin Luther King agreed on everything? No. You think Fred Shuttle, in fact, Ella Baker had lots of criticisms about King. But when it came to the fight, they joined together and created a movement that was successful. And that's really what my focus is. And as the only person in the caucus that lives in a low-income Black and brown neighborhood below the poverty line. I still remember when some progressives from the suburbs came down to protest me, and they were literally chased away by my neighbors, because we are in an urgency. Every day I see it. We are in an urgency where real people are getting hurt. When I go up and down in New Jersey, they don't care about the fact that I took 1% of my money from some group. They care about, what are you doing to restore my health care? What are you doing to fight for my fact that I can't make rent? And in my caucus right now, we're standing up and fighting for those things and not capitulating, as you said, to Donald Trump's attempts to deny 22 million Americans health care, to see healthcare costs double for lots of them.
Well, I think the base feels like right now.
Totally dodged that question. Good on him. Got out of it. Human origami. I don't know. I think that all these politicians, no matter which side, they all take money, from institutions and things of that nature. If you're local, I think you can even donate money. You too can. It's not a bad idea to have a politician in your back pocket. We may not agree with it, but those are the rules. A lot of people don't agree with, a lot of the tax workarounds and things of that nature that a lot of companies do. And, everyone does their taxes and they all find ways to save on taxes, but it's not really criminal. It's like, oh, no, that's the rules. Whether you like it or not, that's just the way it is. If you want to change it, fine. But right now, people are going to play the way they feel is the game is to be played. Same with these politicians. They're all going to dance for a buck. Because when they get elected, their number one job is to get reelected. Number two job is to make sure they get reelected. And then somewhere down the list, their constituents fall on there somewhere. Like, we're going to give you something, but we're not going to give you everything. I try not to get too involved in the politics scene, just because I don't think it really. I don't want to say it doesn't matter, because I think it does matter and it holds a lot of weight. But I think it's just an arena that can get real nasty real quick. I'd like to see everybody, as far as Americans, just come together and hold the elected officials accountable and not let them just run roughshod and do whatever it is they want, and they all profit while we're all trying to figure things out on the day-to-day basis, week-to-week basis, month-to-month basis. I think it makes more sense to you gotta find a way to take the money out of the system. You gotta find a way to do it. I don't know that it'll ever happen, but the lobbyists, all of it. There's no way to make it an equal playing field without taking out this money out the system and them actually having to earn their vote. Like you can't buy it, you can't raise money to through it. You actually have to get out there and talk about real issues that matter to everyday people and what's your plan to go in what's your plan of attack. Um yeah, let's see what else they have to say.
Now. And I know that you're in the Beltway, but I think the Democratic base feels like there is a disconnect. Like we hear you, like when you did your 25-hour speech, I was like, go, Corey. I love this. That is amazing.
I didn't understand that.
And then there's a photo shoot with you with Benjamin Netanyahu. And I was just like, what in the actual fuck? Like, how can he do that? It was heartbreaking. I felt betrayed.
Yeah,
and hang on. And that doesn't just happen in an echo chamber. It's important when there are Democrats like you, where the base, we should make each other better. We need to evolve. And I love that you come on here. We need to have these conversations. It's not a purity test. We want credible messengers, because when we are down the middle and beholden to corporate interests, then we leave this vacuum, and that's how fascism has flourished. And so for myself and a lot of our listeners, when I saw the picture with Benjamin Netanyahu, I felt like it diminished your 25 hours. That's how it felt to me.
So a few things. One is, I work in the Beltway. I live in the
Here he goes where he lives. We don't really care where you live, sir. Yeah, look, I think she's got a good point. If you could be bought, you're bought. I don't care what you say. When you receive that phone call or however they get that message to you and they say, hey, I need you to look the other way, I need you to dance, you're gonna dance. And it's not a right or left thing. I keep saying that. It's not a right or left thing. It's a class war for sure. This is wealth inequality, but when you ask the federal government to fix something, that chasm grows more and more and more. And eventually, when they do something, it's usually turn on the money printer and print the money, and they're trying to print their way out of a situation because they don't really like innovate, right? They rely on you and I to innovate, right? We do consume, and we do things on a day-to-day basis to raise money to live, blah blah blah, pay taxes. The entrepreneurs, those are the people who actually like drive the economy. But what happens is the top 20%, the money always seems to find their way to them, and it's because they own assets. You say, why am I talking about the economy when Cory Booker's over here getting grilled? I say that to say there's no fixing it. The only way to fix it is that we have to become savers, and we have to divest ourselves from luxuries, and we have to become manufacturers and earners, right? That's it. There's no other ways to come out of this. The government, what's going on here? Good. The government isn't going to print their way out of the situation. And so we asked them to fix it. Their solution is turn on the money printer. And then eventually, it happened already. We had an example of this during the pandemic. They cut checks. The poor got paid. The poor eventually spent it. And where did that money do? It ended up in the hands of the asset owners. Vicious cycle. So, I don't know. I don't even know if I'm making sense. Let me just play a little bit more of this and then we get through it.
Central Ward in Newark, New Jersey. Streets that a lot of folks tell folks, why would you demean and degrade my communities? I keep a little picture here of the first place I represented in 28 years old, which is a Black community that's struggling. And we've transformed our schools, our supermarkets, new parks, urban farms, and the like. And the wonderful thing about those folks that I serve is that none of them question where I stand and how long, for more than a quarter of a century, have I stood with the people in their neighborhoods. Number two, so I may work in the Beltway, but I know where I came from and I know who got me here. And it's the struggling people that our party has done a pretty shitty job for, to be honest with you.
I agree.
Okay, number two, when you say things like Kushner, this and whatever, I remember the people who actually, when the Democratic Party was doing things like passing crime bills that put black people like me, when I was in my 20s and stopped by the police all the time, behind bars, the Democratic Party failed and fueled mass incarceration. And so the people that were there for me 30 years ago, doing prisoner reentry programs, getting people jobs and housing, I'm sorry. People like Kushner, who was there 30 years ago fighting for those fights, I'm not going to forget that they fought for black people when other people seem to be gung-ho with, hold on, let me finish.
Wait, is this the first CARE Act? What was that act called that you passed?
Well, that was only 10 years ago, the First Step Act.
What was that? Okay, I've read about that. That's really good. Yes, it's excellent.
And I'm sorry, I have to work across the aisle, and Charlie Kushner was, but for him, it wouldn't have gotten done. So when I go home, people do know people that got out of prison because of the First Step Act, and they knew the bipartisan coalition. Third, I'm sorry. I have real problems with Benjamin Netanyahu. Outrageous things that he's doing. The way you fight for those things is you sit down face to face with somebody and you fight with them. I'm not going to be outside of the room screaming. I want to look him in the eye, like me, Amy Klobuchar, and a whole bunch of other people did, and talk to him about humanitarian aid. And if people want to criticize me for it, then go ahead. But I'm leading in the Senate on West Bank crises right now, from their attempts to annex it or illegal settlements. I lead the legislation to sanction the people that are doing that. I can stand strong on my principles and still work to end these things. And I don't mind taking criticism, from folks that don't necessarily agree with my tactics. But we on this podcast right now, we share the same aim. Ceasefire now, humanitarian aid now, return the hostages now. And I'm
do you think he's a war criminal, Benjamin Netanyahu? Do you think he's a war criminal?
Again, these are questions that a lot of people think are the important litmus tests that are loaded and hot. My urgency is to be an effective leader in bringing an end to this crisis. And I get these questions all the time that, to me, undermine my urgency.
I think the thing that Democrats get so frustrated with, where we are right now, where you see like the Zoran Mamdanis and the Graham Plattners rise up, because they can go on podcasts and you can say, do you think Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal? And they just say, yes. And that's the end of it. It's not all of the rhetoric answering. It's like what happens to Democratic politicians, they go through this like prism, and then we can't ever get like the answer to yes or no conversations like you do with Bernie and others. And that's the frustration for the Democratic base with leadership. Do I think Netanyahu is worse than Trump?
Yes. Do I think that we right now in America should be doing everything possible to bring peace, not just to that crisis, but to the ones that shock me that no one talks about? And I hope, and I don't know if you guys have or not, but crises like Sudan, where there are American weapons literally causing horrific, in fact, by double, triple, quadruple, it's the biggest humanitarian crisis that we're not talking about as a country. When I was coming up, everybody was talking about Darfur. Now the moral silence is outrageous when American weapons are being used in that conflict.
And the same with Israel. I mean, our weapons, and even Democratic politicians signed them before they were sent over to kill kids. I really feel like if we get through this fascism, we have to have conversations like this, Senator. I think
but you're right. Where you're right is the Democratic Party. As a black guy in America,
here we go again.
There are so many things we don't talk about that we need to.
It's getting off into other things, but you guys, please like, comment, share. Let me know your thoughts. Point is, you got to hold the politicians accountable, all your elected officials accountable, and not just vote for the president, down the ballot as well, and keep them all accountable. Yeah, that's all I have. Let me know what you think. I'll leave a link in the description. Well, I'm sure they have a pretty good following. They don't really need it, but I will do it because that's what you should do. Shout out to Antoine Daniels. But yeah, we'll see you in the next one.